Welcome to On the Chain. This is Jeff here with co-host
Chip.
Chip. Tonight we have a special guest with us, Charlie Silver, CEO from Permission.io. How you doing, Charlie?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me.
We're glad to have you here with us tonight. Tonight we are going to dig in and talk about data and owning your own data, being able to monetize your data, and really identifying and recognizing all the big industries like Google and Facebook and Twitter and all those others that are monetizing and taking advantage of our own data. So we want to dig into that. We're going to talk about a lot of that and more. You guys ready?
Let's go.
Welcome to On the Chain.
Right. Welcome back. So Charlie, it's absolutely awesome to have you here with us. And, the project that you guys have with Permission.io really, hits, I think the timing of it is tremendous.
Yeah, no, we think we have a great product market fit. The world is recognizing that their personal data has tremendous value, and they're not getting a cut. Individuals don't get a cut of this tremendous wealth that's being created by the huge internet giants. So it's time individuals get their cut.
That's great to hear. And, as we get into it, obviously protecting our data is something that everybody talks about. Even down to the point where we're concerned about being bombarded with email scams and all these things. Everybody is trying to get our data, whether it's our login data or monetizing our data. They're trying to gain access to us, and having a little bit of a buffer to say, hey, you know what, we're taking that back. When we browse, we go online, we don't want to be bombarded continuously. We want to have some sort of say in the matter. Chip, this is something, obviously you've been involved in a lot of tech, and, we obviously as users, this impacts us a lot as well.
It really does. And the funny part about it seems like everybody, they might grumble here and there about it, but I don't necessarily know if they really know what's happening behind the scenes. When Google's using our data to monetize, right? They're basically using our personal data set to monetize us. And the same thing with Facebook, Twitter, or whatever. And everyone's like, it's kind of no big deal. But the big deal is how do you gain control of that? How do you really start monetizing and permission your data? And that, Charlie, I want you to kind of explain to everybody what Permission.io is, what ASK is, and exactly what the opportunity here is.
Well, thanks, guys. The fact is data is the most valuable commodity in the world. And who owns it? I mean, it's not just Google and Facebook and Twitter and Amazon. It's the state of California, the state of Texas, every magazine company, every credit card company, every airline. Your data, when you is out there, and it is being sold and resold and repackaged. I mean, the credit card companies, make billions off of reporting your transactions and whether you pay your bills on time. Your mortgage company, magazine subscriptions. The state of California only makes $100 million a year off of selling motor vehicle records. So data has tremendous value, and Permission.io is all about helping individuals get control, and start earning off of this data. Everybody else is, but the individual isn't making anything. And so that's what we're all about. And our token, ASK, is how people can earn on the Permission platform from their data. And we've created this crypto just to compensate people for the use of their data.
I think that's a great mechanism, because obviously we know that there's money in ads. We know that, and maybe Chip has the number, but with YouTube ads generated a huge amount of money, in the last reporting cycle. And Facebook, same thing, just to get a little part of that. So people are still going to want to market. people still want to advertise, but we should have some say so, like you're saying, and say in making some sort of a determination as to whether or not I release my data at all. Because if I decide I don't want to release it at all, then obviously I make nothing. But what do you think about this? You know, as we look at the internet, obviously structuring all of these free things on the internet, like YouTube is free, Facebook is relatively free. The other side of it's going to say, well, in order for us to stay open and active and invest all this money into developing these platforms, there has to be some form of a compensation for the company. They're a for-profit company as well. And so if they make their money in ads, obviously they don't want to see that, you know, get taken away either. Which could that potentially then turn into, well, if you want to go on Facebook free, you're actually going to have to pay a membership. Do you think that's a possibility, or is there a whole new mechanism here that you guys have thought out?
Yeah, there is a whole new mechanism. And if anybody's read about Apple in the recent news, Apple has made it abundantly clear. No, not clear. It's now their policy that app providers and hundreds of thousands of apps collect all this data when you use that app. Apple has said you now have to, and this is their words, not ours, ask permission in order to use data. This is why we're such a good product market fit. This is going to happen everywhere. All users of data are going to have to explicitly ask permission. Now, what's really interesting is very few people grant permission unless they're compensated. If you're going to make money with my data, I'm not just going to give it to you for free. Give me something back. Give me a reward. Pay me. Give me a cut. And that's what ASK is all about. It allows advertisers, platforms, anybody who's using personal data to be able to ask permission. And when somebody grants permission, they're doing so because they're going to get paid. And they're going to get paid via ASK. And that's everything we're doing is about that. If you want to use my data, ask permission and reward me. And that's what our token is all about.
Yeah, it seems like a recipe for success. And I have to tell you, I mean, I had a personal, Apple Care is like, you subscribe to it. I had an issue that I had to call in, and even on the phone, they're like, we need your permission to ask you this question. We need your permission to this. This is our policy. I need you to read our policy about how we do things. And I was kind of impressed with it in a sense, whoa, yeah, okay, this is a different sort of a come from versus we'll just go ahead and do it and you'll find out sometime later. And they were actually doing that on the call with me. And okay, is it okay if I send you a link to your screen? Yeah. Is it okay if you screen share? Yes. At any time you can deny the screen share. You're in total control. And that's and I love the whole idea. You say ASK, but it's ask, right? So it's sort of a brilliant tie-in. You're asking permission.io, but it's, if you call it ASK, I know that's the name of it, right? The same way we call it XRP or BTC or anything else. But quite honestly, you are asking permission. And so let's dig a little bit into the details of like, how does this work for an end user? How would it work for somebody who's in the chat right now who wants to know, okay, how do I get involved and how would I monetize my data?
Well, first and we're building a platform, and there's going to be hundreds and hundreds of use cases, but we just have early set of use cases right now. Go to permission.io, you register, you put in a profile, simple profile, username, password, age, zip code, or country, and just basic information. And then you grant permission. You earn ASK by doing that. You may earn 100, 200, depending on how the value of your data to an advertiser. Now you're registered. We use all of the existing programmatic pipes. I mean, the whole world of digital advertising People have no idea how sophisticated it is and how this data flows through the internet. Once you've granted permission, there's a little company called LiveRamp. It's worth 50 billion. It's a public company. They're kind of the hub of data on the internet. So we actually are connected to LiveRamp. So you're granting permission. We send the data to LiveRamp. We get paid. You get paid. That's how it works. We're building a real business. In many ways, we're like the agent for you as an individual to earn from your data. We're trying to maximize that value and then give you a cut, a big cut.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I saw, if you go, let's say you go to the Brave browser. Now, Brave is trying to find a way to push ads to the platform and then compensating the user. I haven't done an analysis as far as, the offset of, what the value of how much they're paying versus how much, your platform might be paying. But one of the things that I'm looking at here, and one of the things I've always said about the Brave browser, is that it's limiting, and it's limiting to those that are using the Brave browser. And their real model is all about Brave and creating maybe a little bit more protection from a browsing, state or search state, or however you want to phrase it, but you're stuck with them. And now if I love the Chrome browser, or I love Safari, or I love whatever browser I'm using, that means I can't get monetized and I can't use Brave. Whereas one of the things that I started going through and I like about the direction you're moving in with permission is that you created a Chrome add-on, to where now it's there, it's always acting, so I can use the browser that I want to use. And it was interesting going through your process, because as I added my data to it, it was compensating me ask right away. Then I did a Google search, and all of a sudden a little box pulled up and said, you can earn another 10 ask if you watch this video. Now, if you've ever experienced Spotify and you go on the free version of Spotify, they say, well, if you watch this video, you'll get the next 30 minutes of free music. Hey, that's great. But now I'm stuck watching a minute worth of videos. And if you're using it in your car, it's not usable. I can't go through that process. That has nothing to do with this. But my point here was that video popped up, but it was in a separate box. So I can move it off to the side while I'm still doing my search, still watching the ad that popped up on your platform. And it was an interesting experience. And then when that ad was finished, all of a sudden I look at my wallet and it says, hey, you have 10 additional ask in the wallet. And so it's kind of an interesting experience.
Yeah, no, it's great that you brought up Brave. We're a very different model than Brave. Brave is, and by the way, I'm a big fan. They've created this browser and it's private. They don't use data. They don't collect your data. They don't. And data is not part of the equation. I mean, they have a very limiting amount of BAT that they put in. They've been very good at controlling their circulating supply, but you're not earning based on data. It's totally private. We're the opposite. We collect all the data. I mean, if people opt in that says, do what I ordinarily do, that data is being used. And by the way, there's really no privacy in the world because, you may get private on the internet, but your credit card, your mortgage, your electric bill, your magazine, everything, your voting records, your driver's license, everything, that's all sold and resold. And we're all about getting you a big piece of that. And Brave doesn't collect data. If you want to browse the internet totally private, use Brave. And it's a great vehicle for someone who doesn't want to share data. But people should know their data is being used and shared anyway, whether or not they use the internet, privately. If they use that, I mean, your data's out there so many different ways. So every possible engagement, we're trying to get the user of the data to compensate the user. and we're the middleman. We're connecting advertisers and users of data with the people who volunteer to say, yeah, use my data, but just pay me.
Right on. Hey, a quick question here. I want to put this up. This is Brickhouse had this question. My concern is that for-profit companies can change their policy, make an app, give credits for their data that they collect if they choose. What do you have that would push customer adoption to you?
Well, the key is if people want to earn, ask, and that's we're creating an infrastructure and a platform so people can earn from their data. And if somebody doesn't want to participate, that's cool. Don't participate. I mean, it's as simple as that. But there's hundreds of millions, if not billions of people in the world that have all this data. And, you know, $50, $100, $200, $300 a month is very significant to them. And that's who we're talking to. And that's who we're trying to appeal to, where people who, this is a real asset, their data. Let's start earning from it and not let just the big, you know, the huge corporations. And again, it's not just Google and Facebook. It's thousands and thousands of companies that are earning from your data.
That's a good point. Moto Yoda says, he says, what type of data is collected? Data is a very broad statement. I know you know, if you go fill out a profile, but for the audience, what kind of data are we talking about here? And, you know, as far as opt-in?
Well, you'll be able to choose, but, you know, basic profile data. But then once you, for example, if you use the browser extension, we store the browser data, just like Chrome does, and any browser stores the browsing data. So that browsing data helps get the right targeted ad to you. So if you're on Google and you search for Adidas shoes, well, maybe you get an ad that pays you ASK that's offering Nike. And that's how it works. So that browsing data is very valuable, but it allows proper targeting, and hopefully you can see ads that are relevant and personal to you.
That's a really good point. That's a great point. So there's another question here. XRP Hoarder, doesn't this make Ask token a security? Now, there's an interesting time, you know, having this conversation about data, getting into this idea that, you know, that we could look at your offering as a security. It just so happens that on Thursday, we're going to have Congressman Warren Davidson with us live Thursday evening, and we're going to be talking about the Token Taxonomy Act. He's the primary sponsor of the Token Taxonomy Act. This is the third time running that the Token Taxonomy Act has been introduced in front of the House, sitting in the Financial Services Committee. So we're going to dig in, you know, really in depth with Congressman Davidson on Thursday. But this still, you know, is a nagging issue. You know, with is a token a security? What makes it a security? What doesn't make it a security? Obviously, we know that the SEC is going after Ripple right now and making some claims that they sold an unregistered security back in 2013. The SEC is also going after a library for supposedly releasing a security. Can you get into that a little bit? And, you know, is Ask you know, from your perspective, you know, let's analyze that a little bit. So I'm kind of glad XRP Hoarder brought that up.
That's a great question. And, you know, there's a whole, look at, the SEC is going to have to come out with clear rules about cryptocurrency. I mean, there's a lot of people that say all cryptos are securities, but we've gone to great length to be a utility token. I mean, we are absolutely utility. It has a clear purpose. It's not just being bought for appreciation. The purpose is to be a vehicle to share data, and that's its purpose. And when an advertiser or a merchant or someone who wants you to open an email, download a white paper, you know, do something of that nature, that's the purpose of our token. Our token in many ways is more akin to rewards points, Amex points, Marriott Bonvoy points. That's what, when they offer you Amex points, they're offering you those points to take action. Same with Marriott Bonvoy, or any of the credit cards or the airlines. And this is a perfect use case for cryptocurrency because crypto's liquid. And, rewards points that you get from merchants aren't liquid and they're siloed. And, Starbucks, Marriott, they have great rewards programs, but you don't care about any of the other retailers in the world. It's only the global, the biggest ones that you care about. So we've gone to great pains to, try and, be the definition of what a utility is.
That's interesting too. So pretty much a utility token that is benefit agnostic, meaning that I love my Amex points, I love my Delta points, and both of them can be used. Like Amex, I can go to the Amex site, I can order gift cards, I can order product, I get more value out of gift cards than product, and it works out better. Delta, you can use it towards flights, but you can also go shopping with Delta points. People probably don't realize that. So you accumulate a lot of flight miles, you go shopping. Delta or American Express, you can use on Delta. But I like this idea of having maybe an agnostic method where it crosses all of these categories.
You can go to permission.io. We have 10,000 or more, 15,000 products for sale that you can purchase with ASK. And one of the big initiatives that we've been working on and hopefully will launch very soon, we've been working on this for over a year, is a plugin for Shopify merchants to install on their store simply and offer ASK as a reward for shopping. And we see that as a huge part of our initiative, is to offer ASK as a rewards mechanism for e-commerce.
That's
awesome. Big too. I don't think people realize Shopify, how that power is a big percentage. A lot of the shops that you go out and visit are Shopify shops. Now, it may be an actual URL, but what's the power of the software behind it? And they've really grown their ecosystem nicely. And I could see this working in pretty well, because even my wife runs a Shopify shop, with her, she does handcrafted soaps. And I could see that being some of interest to somebody going there and shopping, right? Or being able to find some other things that they're interested in.
Yeah, and then it applies open an email. It's going to allow Shopify merchants, when they send out an email to their customer list, whether it's existing or new, offer ASK. And, to open an email open rates are in rapid decline. So it's all about asking permission and to engage, to share data and to engage.
That's great. So I want to pull this up. Couple of things. I guess this one first. Here we go. So first, I guess is the Ask dashboard. So you have 100 billion total coin supply. Sounds very similar to XRP with their 100 billion. You have a circulating supply of 5.3 billion at this point, and you broke it down. The supply. So you have 40% with users, 25% going to purchasers and supporters, 20% stayed with developers and advisors, and the team kept 15%. And then as I go into it, I look here that you're on the permission blockchain. So you're not actually an ERC20 token, that you forked. You're a fork of Ethereum. So it's Ethereum-like, but it's not using the Ethereum mechanism exactly. But then I went to this category here, to your transactions that are being processed. And I can see that you have transactions going on pretty often here. Here's one for almost $500. It looks like 499. And then you have gas price and gas used. So, I'm looking at all of this. Are you running into, similar types of issues in your transactions that we're seeing with these other ERC20s that the gas prices are so high that it makes it extremely difficult to move the asset?
No, we made a very good decision several years ago to have our own mainnet, to have our own blockchain. And even in 2017, gas was exploding too. When Ethereum had a run from 50, $60 all the way to 1,500, in early 2018, gas was exploding. I mean, and it is today. I mean, ERC20s, and that's another problem, with BAT. It's and Brave. It's an ERC20. It costs them more to deliver a token than it does to than the token's worth. And so we own our own blockchain. We earn gas. We don't pay gas, and the gas is minimal. It's really minuscule. And so we really see ourselves as a widely used consumer token throughout the whole advertising and e-commerce ecosystem. So we had to keep costs down to nothing to deliver these tokens. And that's why we run our own mainnet.
That's I'm looking here. The actual cost 0.002. Are these numbers here? Is this amount? Is that ask, or is that dollars that are being moved here?
That's a good question. I think that's ASK.
Okay.
It looks like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have your gas used was 21,000, then the total cost. So it seems like transaction costs are really low, which is outstanding, which is really good.
I don't know what it costs to move an ERC20 today, but I mean, it's a lot. It's
a lot. Yeah. I've had some interesting experience, and it depends on the platform, but it's amazing. I took $100, moved it over to MetaMask, and I moved USDC over there, and I lost $20 in the process of moving it to MetaMask from Coinbase. I made a mistake of using Coinbase regular instead of Coinbase Pro. I was testing out an idea, and so it cost me a lot for that transaction. And then once I was there, I was trying to move it into USDT, and I couldn't do it because from USDC to USDT, it was going to cost me another $40 in transaction costs. I said, well, wait a minute. I don't even have $100 here anymore. Let me move more. So I got a whole total $100. I tried to convert it, and it wouldn't convert. And then I said, okay, I figured out a way I can move it somewhere else through Uniswap. And then I was going through Uniswap, and I said, okay, I'm going to go through this process. I need to add some Ethereum over there. And then it cost me like $15 or $16 worth of Ethereum, and the transaction failed, but yet I still got charged. So now I'm down like $35, and I still have my money stuck over on MetaMask. Finally, I said, the heck with this. I'm going to move somewhere. And I was going through this process. I'm like, oh, why are the transaction fees so outlandish? It's really amazing. But I wanted to look at something over here, which I thought was cool. So I'm on the permission website, but you can see right at the top, you can get an idea of, and I just set this up today, but I went through the process, and you can see right at the top here, this is my 310 ask that I currently have. 300 were for sharing my data. And then the other 10 was this pop-up that I got that said, hey, check this out. You want to watch this video and you can earn some ask. So, that was kind of cool. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, so there's a question here. So from Ryan, with Ask's $100 billion max supply, are there any plans on a coin burn?
Well, we don't have a formal coin burn program. We may. Our circulating supply is wicked low right now, and absolutely. I mean, coin burn is, at some point, public companies buy their own stock. I mean, it's the same kind of thing. When appropriate, absolutely. I mean, we'll want to keep, management of the supply is crucial. And, we're in many ways, all crypto projects are running a kind of they've created a currency, and managing all the aspects of that currency are crucial. So, and making sure so everything is in balance and working. So
That's a good answer. Yeah, makes sense. Robert Morris is asking, can you buy metals? I'm assuming it's like silver, gold.
can you buy metals on permission.io? No.
Yeah, in other words, can you buy metals with ask at some point? Is that something where there might be to buy like precious metals?
No, absolutely. I mean, there are a lot of precious metal dealers in the world. I mean, thousands and thousands of them. And as crypto becomes more and more useful in commerce, we want to be on all the coin payment networks, as many as possible, creating as much liquidity as possible. So right now we're integrated with coinpayments.net, but we want to be integrated with all the payment companies. And we want to be very, very liquid as much as possible.
Great. Just another question too is, so these are early days, right? So when I say early days, I'm talking about the whole crypto industry. Everyone acts, just because you've been around that for 3 or 4 years, everyone seems like it's still very new. There's like 1% of people that hold cryptocurrency in the world population. We're about 2.5 trillion in market cap. I mean, we're getting to 10, 15, 20, 30, 40. I mean, we're going to eventually climb. So early days now. So with permission.io, what other things do you see on the roadmap coming down, and some other things you're looking at structuring that, might be interesting? And you might not be able to say it now, because I know if you're working on something, you don't want to release it too early. So you can always say, well, I just have to curtail that, but just out of curiosity.
Well, there's a lot of questions there. Look, I agree with you. We are still very early in crypto adoption. There's a great book called Crossing the Chasm, which is a technology marketing book that, has been around for decades and decades. There's going to be a moment where crypto gets adopted mainstream. And in my view, it's the regulatory issues when the SEC and governments around the world say, here are the rules around crypto: taxation, accounting, custodianship, all of the rules, which today are very ambiguous. When that happens, Katie bar the door, because it's going to explode. I mean, we're already seeing Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Citibank, Fidelity, participating, but they're just tipping their toe in the water because they don't know what the regulatory rules are going to be. But so that's what's going to open it, make it wide open, where crypto will be as commonly used as fiat. And maybe fiat goes away, who knows? But it's not going away. But we're super excited because we're allowing mainstream people who don't have extra cash. People today, they got to take $1,000 or 500, wire it to Coinbase or Binance to buy their first set of crypto. Well, with us, just go to permission.io, start earning, start sharing your data, using that asset. This is an asset. It's like real estate. You can borrow against real estate. You can now start earning from an asset that you already own, which is your data. So why wouldn't you participate? Now, it's not for everybody. I mean, the people that use Brave that don't want their data totally private, that's cool. And I totally get that. But for people who need money and who want to monetize an asset that they already have, they should be using permission.io, granting permission, and getting targeted ads that you want to see. And now you're getting paid for it.
Yeah, that's
I can see this.
Yeah, go ahead, Chip.
Well, as I say, there's a lot of things. If you look at early days of even the way they promoted Bitcoin, you fill out a little survey, you do this. Like there was some sort of a reward, and a lot of people accumulated that way. They got, it was worth 20 cents or whatever, and they got a Bitcoin, but they filled out a survey. They did something, right? And so for that, they were giving some sort of input to receive some kind of a value. Now they mostly lost that crypto. That stuff disappeared. But I'm curious to see what I think a lot of people don't realize. And Jeff and I know a little bit about your background because we had obviously a conference call. But it's interesting how you learned, and I think it'd be interesting to share this with the audience. How did you learn so much about data? Like, how do you know these ins and outs of data? Because you seem to really have that pinpointed? You mentioned it earlier in the conversation, but how do you know so much about data?
Well, thank you for asking that question. I built a company called Real Age, which was one of the biggest data collection companies on the internet. It was a health risk assessment, which took in hundreds and hundreds of data points about your health and well-being, what you eat, what you exercise, what drugs you take, how big, every aspect of your health and well-being. And then we would ask people permission if they wanted to get information on products and services to help make their real age younger. And essentially, we connected people to pharmaceutical companies because those were the big advertisers. And people may know Dr. Mehmet Oz. He was my partner and spokesperson. We sold the company to Hearst very successfully 10 years ago. But we had 60 million users with an average 300 data points each. So, if there's someone who knows about how data is used on the internet, I'm your guy, because I invented it, decades ago. So, and when DoubleClick came around and Google and how they started to use data, we were right involved with all of it. So.
Not everybody. Well, Dr. Oz, I was going to say, you say Dr. Mehmet Oz. A lot of people don't even know who his first name is, but everyone knows when you say Dr. Oz, right? Because obviously he got a good gig on TV and, he's pretty well popular. He's in the mainstream culture. So for you guys to have pioneered that, years ago, eons ago, today, you go back a decade, it's a long time ago. So pretty impressive.
Yeah. And Dr. Oz was our spokesperson. He was, we authored books under Dr. Oz. And when we sold the company to Hearst, Hearst and Oprah were partners. Hearst publishes Oprah magazine. And then Oz was the natural takeover of the Oprah show. And so his origin, though, it was with the company I built called Real Age.
Amazing.
That's really amazing. And you get to it. It's interesting. We talk about Brave and people wanting to hide their data, but you bring up a really, key point, because if you're engaged in any way, shape, or form on the internet, you're probably sharing your data. As much as you want to not, because you're thinking you're hiding with Brave, you're not sharing your data. If you bought a house, you brought that up earlier, your data is being shared, whether you want it to or not. If you attend a workshop or a conference, there's a good chance that your data is being put into a pool of email blasts that are now going to be targeting you in your given industry. If you're doing anything online and you're buying product online, there's a good chance your data is now being consumed and utilized. What you're talking about with Real Age, how many people and how many others like that now have popped up, where people go on, they're like, oh, that looks great. I want to go on. I need to get information on my mortgage. Right. And they have a free mortgage calculator. You start going through it. Oh, but if you want it, now you got to put your email address in. There you go. Your data just got collected. And by the way, you didn't even get your mortgage rates, because now your phone's ringing and there's someone on the other end of the phone. But now your data has been collected and it's being regurgitated someplace.
Jeff,
the
only way your data is not used and repackaged and resold is, it's unfortunate that there are tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of homeless people who live on the street. They don't have a credit card. They don't vote. They don't have an electric bill. That's how you stay private. You got to go off the grid, meaning no credit card. When you use a credit card, that data, every transaction is packaged and sold. It's not just Google and Facebook. It's the credit card companies. It's government. The state of California, every state in the country sells motor vehicle records. What car you own, your driver's license records. You can call up the state of Florida and say, I want a list of 18 to 25-year-olds that drive Toyotas. They'll sell you that data. It's a huge.
Did you say Florida?
Everywhere. States, municipalities, everywhere. So that's why I'm saying the only way to be private is to be totally off the grid.
Yeah.
No credit card, no, you don't vote, you don't have a driver's license. Your data is this massive asset. It's time for individuals to get paid. And that's what we're about. We're dedicated to getting individuals paid for this asset that is being sold, and thousands of entities, it's not just Google and Facebook, thousands of entities are making money off of your data, and you're not getting a penny. And it's time you do.
So at this point, you make a stance, and people online, not online. Obviously, there's a lot of work ahead of you guys as well as you start building out this infrastructure to make this happen. You did amazing things with Real Age, bringing that idea to people. Now you're bringing this idea to people. It's like, hey, get monetized. How do you do that? How do you get the message? Not just to the people. I think the people will come once you have it built. People are going to say, hell yeah, I want to protect my data and I want to get monetized. But how do you get to the big companies? And someone asked a question, you'd mentioned, you at some point ask is like Amex reward points, or you can start using them for, using the digital asset for other things. But how do you get to those companies to
it's
say,
a lot
hey,
of hard work.
what happened?
It's a lot of hard work. And, we're already connected to hundreds and hundreds of companies. Again, the biggest bidders for our inventory, who the number one bidder is? PayPal. Number two, Visa. I mean, they bid for the inventory of people who are already on permission. And that's what we're doing different than anybody in crypto. We're connecting to all of the pipes that are already there. So when Visa goes online and says, I want to reach 18 to 30-year-old males that are interested in crypto, our inventory pops up and they bid on it, right? They pay us.
Well, I think you said something.
We pay it back in ASK, and we have a real token economics model. I mean, it's not just a speculative asset; it's a real economic model that works. And we're connecting to all of the infrastructure that allows the monetization of data.
Yeah, I was just saying, one of the things I think is key in that conversation is a lot of times a company will try to go out, solve a problem, and they'll try to reinvent what's already there. You guys are connecting to existing pipes. People know Visa, people know PayPal, and the likes, companies like that, right? So you're not trying to go out and create a whole new infrastructure. You're connecting to already laid infrastructures and connecting pipes. And I think that's kind of another thing, because a lot of people have tried this in the past. But again, they've kind of gone off on their own private sort of reservation, trying to say like, well, let's do this and do this, and then let's try to get adoption. Well, that's a fun way to do it, but good luck on the adoption. Where this is already what people know, they're already doing it. And I would, I always know too that people, just knowing what I know in tech, people are sitting there going, not me, man. No, I don't sell. I'm very cautious with my stuff. Yeah, I'm on Brave browser right now, but you know what? I love Chrome. I use Chrome all the time, and there's so many places that where you're not even aware. You're like, yeah, I'm not on Facebook, so okay, well, fine. But there's hundreds of other places. Like, for example, people don't realize that when someone's looking at putting a shop up in a mall, they can get the records. They know exactly who in the demographic drives by how many times per day, because the cell phones sell their records too. On you have a mobile phone, right? They can tell you exactly what demographic drives by. You say, I'm targeting 18 to 24, 18 to 36. They can tell you how many people, how many times they stop in that plaza, because they have all of the records of where you go. And most people are clueless on this. And one of the big purveyors of data selling are the phone records, right? I don't care. So what phone company do you use that they don't massively sell your records? And they know every time you drive by, they know when you go here, they know when you go into that plaza, how many times you've been to that plaza, how much traffic comes into that plaza. If you want the data, it's all available and it's for sale. But most people don't realize.
Chip, I mean, it's so great that you just brought that up, because now all of these companies and people are starting to recognize, when you click allow, don't allow, all this kind of stuff. Now it's like, well, if you're going to use it, you're making money. I want my cut. Give me my cut. And that's what ask is all about. And The market is moving in this direction where advertisers and merchants, if they want to use your data, give you a piece of the revenue. And that's what our token, we're connecting to all of these pipes to allow advertisers to pay individuals.
That's awesome. It's interesting because, people get real concerned about that. If you want to go to the very like grassroots micro level of it, go into a car dealership and, drive out, bring your car in for service. And many times your car dealer will put a license plate protector on the back with their information on it. It happened to me the last time I was there.
Not here.
Now I got to
take
go
it
and
off,
take
Jeff.
it off. Right. So if I see it, now I got to take it off because I tell them, look, I bought a vehicle from you, or I didn't. You're servicing my car, but I'm not advertising for you. I'm not for a free walking billboard to drive my truck around and for you to get free advertising. We got my wife's car, and the dealership actually had the audacity to put like a silver lettered logo of their thing. And I said, I'll buy this car, but when you're detailing it, you're taking that off and take the license plate thing off of it. I said, it's great. I'm happy. But think about even that basic level, people are getting taken advantage of and they don't even realize it. We're running around and it's everywhere you look.
Absolutely. And, we view permission as kind of like individuals' agents. I mean, we're in the data economy. Data is the most valuable asset in the world. And your data has real value. You got to start earning from it. Now, if you want to be private, that's cool. You don't want to earn from your data. I get it. And there's a whole millions and millions of people don't want to participate. That's fine. But if you want to participate and start getting paid for an asset that you rightfully own, sign up at permission.io.
Yeah. Hey, that's great. Hey, there's another question here, and I've been digging in on the website. Went over, it brought me to GitHub. I don't want to bring that up, but this question is from CS. How is the blockchain secured? So you're running your own blockchain, and the question to follow up with that is there a mechanism for validator nodes? But that does seem to be something on your website. So I'm going to just pull that up, and maybe you can answer, how you secure it. But right here, oops, I'm zooming on the wrong thing. Over here, if you go to the dev portal, you can get into talk about the power of data algebra, DApps, and run a node. So if you can kind of get into that a little bit.
I'm going to use your show to make a little announcement.
Yes.
We just, and we haven't really pushed it on the press, but you can now run a validator node in Google Chrome store. The Google Cloud. You can go to the Google Cloud and run a permission validator node. And we spent months and months and months working with Google, and they have approved us to run our blockchain nodes in the Google Cloud. So we are working very hard at getting decentralized. But let's be honest about it. I mean, Bitcoin may be the only really truly decentralized network, and people will argue they're not truly decentralized either. But we recognize the value of being decentralized, having validator nodes, and our attitude is we're not fighting Google, Facebook, Amazon. We're just creating a new ecosystem, and if we need to work with them, these are the biggest companies in the world that control some of the most important infrastructure in the world in computing. So we want to work with these guys. We're not out there to try and put them in the guillotine and cut their heads off. No, we want to work with them because we're working for individuals. And if this is the best way to do it, and by the way, people at Google love what we're doing. And we're very connected to them in many, many, many ways. So,
Charlie, I was going to say before we talk about Mr. K just signed up. He said, "Bring on my ask." So he's, what's interesting you bring that up because there's another company called Ripple, and they said we're not going to delete the banks. Bitcoin's promise was, total anarchy. We don't want any more banks, and that's a fun thing to think about. But guess what? They're not going away, at least not overnight. So Ripple went and approached the banks and said, "How do we leverage this? How do we partner with them? How do we work with this?" And this kind of reminds me of the same thing where where they went off and they said, hey, let's build upon this. Let's figure out how to work together and create an infrastructure and then create next level that sort of propels it. And you're kind of doing this, something similar where you said, let's work with all the existing people. Let's not try to spear them, or throat punch them. Let's figure out ways, but let's return it in much the same way, power to the people, right? So they're already doing it. Why don't you want to get compensated for it, right? And like you said, it's not going to be for everybody, but almost everybody right now is a victim of this. So it's up to you whether you want to, what you want to share. And it's the knowledge of you physically opting in and giving permission that may bug you a little bit, but just know this happens without your consent right now. But a lot of people will be like, oh, I just gave permission. This feels weird. That's okay because it's happening now. So,
Chip, you nailed it. You just nailed it all. I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, our mission is about helping people get paid from this asset that they own, their data. And, again, our view is privacy is just an illusion. It's not real. It's not real. So get paid, get your cut.
right, get a piece of pie.
Hey, there was some comments coming from Brickhouse. So I kind of drilled back up looking for his first comment here, but he said, I work for an extremely large data company. I wish you the best in your innovation, but this has been tried and tested hundreds of times before. Blockchain itself isn't enough, in my opinion. And then he kind of followed up. But how is, how is it different?
Well, let me tell you my view of blockchain. Blockchains are great. And you know what they're great for? Transactions. They're not sophisticated databases. They're good for recording transactions. They're good for issuing cryptocurrency and other transactions. They're not good at this point, and they probably won't be for a decade of storing and data and doing analytics. That's not their purpose. Their purpose is recording transactions. So cryptocurrency is a perfect use case. Blockchains have created the use case of cryptos, of currencies. And you can see every transaction and transparency. But we're using existing infrastructure, and we're just using the blockchain for our crypto. We're not using blockchain for other forms of data analytics and storage.
Right. And most of the time now you need sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
No, I was just to say there's more to it. There was this follow-up, coming from Brickhouse, the other part of what he was saying. There's sampling and projections. Who is your demographic that you're collecting from? Then how do you say that sample represents a majority of the people to make valuable data? So I guess the key is who's the demographic to collect from?
Well, listen, our goal is to be mainstream and to work for everybody in every demographic. But the early adopters represent the crypto early adopters, which are heavily male, under 18 to 35. And, I'm an old dude, but, I'm not the basic demographic, but it's very much a young male demographic today. Those are the early adopters. As it goes mainstream, it's going to be everybody.
That's right. Look at Facebook. Facebook started out with the youth, started out in college. It's a college, the Facebook was started on college campuses, Harvard, right? And then now the average demographics anywhere from 62 to 75 plus, right? Mm-hmm. So that's really their main thing, but it didn't start out that way, right? So, but now it has the broad. I mean, my 17-year-old daughter, she can be. I don't even know if she has a Facebook. I don't go on Facebook myself. Not that I'm a young guy, but I just don't bother with it. There's a lot of other apps that I would, much choose to. But I do recognize the fact that they did a good targeting, and we do use it in business because we're able to target a very nice niche. And I like that power to be able to hit people. When I go on there, they know everything about me. And you know what? When they send me an ad, it's usually right on point. I don't go on there that much. It's usually to find an old friend or, communicate with somebody who's just, that's all only place to hang out. Yeah, I might go there, but I'm always amazed by how they do it. But in this scenario here too, is like, I think a lot of that question came from yeah, you're not trying to reinvent the internet. And certainly, what blockchain's not very good at. That's why you have oracles that go off, that have to, like with a smart contract, Oracle has to go find a trigger from somewhere else, a database that's fast and efficient, where blockchain isn't. None of that applies to blockchain, right? It's not known for its quickness and efficiency. Now, I'm not talking about transactions, I'm talking about storing stuff on the blockchain, and continually adding blocks to it. That's not what its purpose is. That's why we have oracles and smart contracts, which can create triggers off chain.
No, that's exactly right. And there's a lot of people that are trying to use blockchains for use cases that they're not designed for. And no, blockchains are great for recording transactions. They're not good for data analytics, and they're not good for storing large amounts of unstructured data and the kind of data that's stored that Facebook and Google stores. It's not designed for that.
Also, I want to follow up here. Brickhouse said, hey, good luck to this team. I asked some hard questions. Responses were insightful. Thank you for sharing my responses. So that's great. And that's one of the things we do here on the chain is we like to have, see what our audience is thinking. And, we call this the On the Chain family. It's a niche set of people who are, I wouldn't say they come from they're like-minded like Jeff and I, right? They're not hypesters. They look at stuff, they analyze it, they ask questions, they want to know about it, and they're realistic about stuff, right? And when they like you, that's great. And there's times when Jeff and I will be talking about something and they'll be about as honest as they can and be jabbing Jeff and I in the eye, which is what we want. Keep it real, keep us honest,
Right.
So I appreciate everybody for that.
I want to give a shout out to Oscar. Oscar's coming in from Iceland. And he just said,
Super
keep
late.
rocking it. See you later, guys. It's late over there. He's on a different sleep schedule right now, but great work, Charlie, from Oscar over in Iceland. The great thing is that we have people that are coming in from all over the world. So not just here in the US. So it's outstanding. People are staying up. It could be 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning in some places, and they're still tuning in to watching us right now. So, a lot of great questions here. Somebody did ask, and I lost track of it. Now I'm trying to find it again. Had to do, oh, here it is. So Ryan had asked, what's the main purpose behind having to earn 25,000 ask from the browser before being allowed to withdraw it from your wallet? And then any plans on removing this to help with more decentralization? Is there something more to that?
Absolutely. Great question. We want to have tens and tens of millions of users, hundreds of millions of users. And when that happens, when that liquidity happens, and we have every advertiser in the world running campaigns offering ASK, then we got a super liquid market, and we don't have to control the circulating supply. Right now, it's a form of a lockup that you have to earn 25,000 K before you can withdraw and put it, out on the blockchain and trade it. And it's just a form of lockup. And, that's how we got to do it, because we're very token economics conscious, and we want to encourage people to earn and participate. And believe me, we've had tens of thousands of people have earned 25K and been able to withdraw and trade it. But hopefully that amount continues to decline as the network grows. So when somebody asked about a burn program, this is kind of a format of, putting a little governor on the circulating supply.
Gotcha. I want to put up Mr. K, the final question of the night, because we're getting ready to wrap up. Mr. K says, great work, Charlie. This is going to set a new standard. Do you see ASK becoming a crypto bank someday?
Great question. Anything's possible. I mean, if we have hundreds of millions of users,
Sure.
Our goal is to service those users. So,
Right.
Maybe one day we'll be an exchange. Maybe one day we'll be a bank. Maybe one day we'll provide lending activities against your ASK. Absolutely a possibility. It's not on the roadmap today.
Gotcha.
Interesting.
Listen, I mean,
question.
look, where did the time go, man? We've been chatting for like almost an hour right now. And Charlie Silver, founder and CEO of Permission.io, I really want to thank you. Jeff and I really want to thank you for coming on here and sharing this. I mean, we always love when a guest comes on there and we're like, have to be mindful of the time. We're like, wait, where did the hour go? It just, flowed, and you handled the questions that were tossed at you. So thank you so much. Jeff, do you want to, before we give Charlie the final word?
I just want to say, Charlie, appreciate you being here with us tonight. Always appreciate everybody in the chat joining us. Like I said, we have people from all over the world, all sorts of different time zones. If you're brand new to On the Chain, this is your first time here, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notifier. Also go and check out our other channel, because that's where we are posting daily content as well. But Charlie, last word before we wrap up.
Thank you, Jeff and Chip, for having me on the show. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I really encourage you to sign up on permission.io, start learning about ASK, how you can earn it, tell your friends, tell your family, and we're building a really fabulous community, and we'd love to have you be a part of it.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all we know. And Charlie, hang around after this and we'll be right back. Okay, so hang out with us. Guys, everybody, we'll see you tomorrow night on the next one.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.